So there were companies in OpenStack that OpenStack was clearly their first experience in open source. In my experience, part of that linguistic and anthropologic issue is one of bias, right? Again, you use a particular term or you talk about a particular thing. Oh, well, that's just like this. Well, it's kind of like this, but here's the way it's different. And you have to really care about those nuances and differences. One such example for me is that of relating open source projects to standards activities. Lots of similarities.
Also lots of differences.
But yeah, and one of the big ones that is difficult to describe is, in a lot of corporate structures, you grow as a developer to become an architect, right? And that's the better role. And so you grow out of writing code and into creating PowerPoints, for lack of a better term. And often it's those architects that are part of those standards bodies, and they're the senior leaders and so forth. So trying to explain to a company that you actually can't do that in open source. You can't gain influence by being an architect. That doesn't happen. You gain influence by reviewing other people's code. And to do that, you have to understand the code really, really well. You have to be an architect to be a leader, to be able to say, where are we going? But you have to do it at the code level. And I found companies that is their culture anyway, so they more easily slip into and fit into an open source ecosystem. But there are other companies where that's really a struggle, right? Having an architect on the TSC is the level of control that should be, possible to get what I want out of this project. And it's like,
let me present PowerPoints, and then that sets the direction of the open source project. Yeah.
Have you seen that? And you had to have those conversations with folks? And if so, give me an example or two of that one.
I have seen it. It never works. A lot of it, sometimes it isn't at that level. It isn't at the level of we have a senior person, they should be on the technical steering committee or the board or whatever. It's not. Sometimes it's at that level, or expecting that a board seat means you control the direction of the project. I have seen that. But a lot more of it is, I would say in volume, that's a smaller number of people, because there are a smaller number of people at that level. And the larger number of people making that mistake is, well, I reported a bug, isn't that enough? Or I said something in the early design part, and shouldn't that mean that they implement the thing that I suggested? And not realizing that for every one sentence that you say about design, there are many, many, many human hours of work to make that a reality. And you kind of have to back up. You have to put your money where your mouth is, right? You have to put your implementation work in as advocacy for a direction, the same way you have to put in, contribute, like, this is how we're using it, this is how it affects us. Or the way I often put it, to try to be a little bit more concrete, is if you just participate at the level of talking about what you need, you are only going to get a little bit of value back out of that. Like, if that's the only thing you put in, you're only going to get a little bit of value back out. And as you get more and more involved into, actually putting in coding time, like, you are going to get more value out of that. Like, the work will serve your needs better and serve your customers' needs better. And also, because you're doing it in collaboration with a bunch of people, the whole project will serve everyone's needs better because of that work that you did. So it's kind of like, I talk about it as tiers of participation. Like, as you get more deeply engaged in the work of the project, you get more value out of it. And it's a worthwhile investment of your time and your developers' time to make the project better.